Hi, my name is Emily Leggett. I'm the teen librarian at the Tewksbury Public Library, and today we're going to make page pumpkins. Okay, if you're doing this with us at home and you got a book from the library, it's going to look a little bit different. I chose one with color just to see how it came out as a graphic novel. This does make it more difficult to cut. So if you did not get a book from us, choose carefully. All right, first step, rip off the cover. For a hardcover, you can put them together and just tear it down. Some of the bindings will look different. It may not look as beat up as this one. This was a discard, so it's been through a little bit. Next, you can discard that cover. You're not going to need it anymore. For this one, I didn't want the blue pages in my pumpkin, so I ripped off the first and last page. If yours isn't a different color or a color you're okay with, then you don't need to do this step that I'm doing right here. Okay. The next step I did with a pen because it's what I had available, but I suggest doing it with a pencil. You can also use a piece of paper to do this outline, so it's the same every time, or you can freehand it. So the first step is to freehand the shape of your pumpkin that you want on this first page. I started with a little bit on the bottom. Honestly, I would suggest going straight to the bottom, then you don't have to cut that little bit. But it's up to you and the size you want your pumpkin to be. I find it helpful to cut this first page by itself, so I know that it's the shape that I would like it to be. But you can do the first couple of pages if you would like. The more pages you cut, the more difficult it is to cut, and the more ragged it's going to be the edge, and the more corrections you'll have to do once you're done. Okay. If you would like a stem on yours, you don't have to cut all the way to the top like I just did. You can leave a little bit, or you can cut and see how it comes out. You'll notice when mine is done, it will still have a little stem anyway because I don't cut the same every time. And make sure it's the shape that you want. Make sure you have a trash barrel nearby because this is going to have a lot of scraps. So I grabbed the first few pages because it'll be easier to go through, and then began to cut again. We're going to repeat this process until the whole book has been cut this way. So it's going to take a bit of time and some patience. Do it in chunks if you need to. You can walk away and come back. Whatever works best for you. Later on, I found it was a bit easier, instead of holding all those pages, to redraw my stencil. You can also, if you have that paper pencil, you can just put that back down again and do it in the individual chunks, or just freehand it. I found it easier because I wasn't as patient as I should be with this. But it's up to you how you do it. This is just an alternative way that you can do it. Once it's fully cut, you have a few options. So as you can see, mine looks like it has a little stem. That's just because the binding wasn't great on this book. I chose to cut it off. You can leave it if you would like the stem. This is also a great time to paint the sides of your book orange if you would like it to look like a pumpkin. I personally chose not to with this book because it was already had a lot of color on it. But in the original that I made, which I'll show you at the end, I did do that. So you can paint it or you can color it with orange marker. That's fine. As you'll notice, mine's a lot of different sizes. So this is really where you narrow it down. If you cut it correctly and patiently, you won't have this step. But I went through and kind of grabbed a few more, cut it down. If you have a box cutter and your parent can help you use it, please do not use a box cutter without parental assistance. Then you can trim those down that way as well. Now that mine's been trimmed down a little bit, you can see I'm kind of just seeing how I want it to stand. So the edges are a little bit cleaner. I did make a little bit of a stem. So here the first thing we're going to do is take the first page and the last page, once it's all clear, and you can either tape or glue them together. I chose tape because I find it easier to move around if I don't like how I did it, but whatever works for you. Again, these are not perfectly done pages. It's up to you how precise you want your pumpkin to be. Of course, with tape, you can roll it or you can just tape the two pages together. I chose to roll my tape so it would be harder to see from the outside. Do it again however you would like. Any type of glue will work as long as you're leaving it for a long enough period of time. You're going to stand this up, so I taped it, I think 2 or 3 times, just to make sure those pages didn't come apart while it was standing. See, I'm going to test it and see if I can make it stand. Mine is a little bit uneven on the bottom, but it does work. So I noticed that part, that section was a little bit more open, so I wanted to tape some more together on that side, just to make sure it would hold its full shape instead of having bald spots on it. So now I'm deciding where I would like to tape it to make sure it holds that shape. And then I taped over the top. Just to make sure it will stick together. Again, you can tape it wherever you'd like. Another very important step to make sure it holds its shape is to take 2 pages and pull it apart. It's not going to rip or anything. You just really want to stretch it out so it gets used to being open in a different way, because books aren't used to being open on different sections at all times. So it's inherently trying to close, right? So you take those 2 pages and you stretch them out throughout, and then it will hold its shape even better. Voila, that is it. That is your book pumpkin. It is ready to go. This is the one I did again. I told you I decided to mess with the color ones and the thicker pages, so it's going to be a little bit different than yours most likely. This, however, is what it looked like when I did it with a regular paperback book. My regular book pumpkin, I chose to do some orange on the sides, and I left my unevenness on the top to make a little stem. This is another place I could have taped it somewhere to really make sure it keeps its shape, and with time it will open up a little bit as well. I hope you've enjoyed making book pumpkins. As always, we would love to see what you create. So if you would take a picture of what you've made, please send it to us via social media or give us an email. We would love to see it. Thank you for joining us for Book Pumpkins. If you would like to see our other events, make sure you check our website out at tewksburypl.org. And we look forward to seeing you in another event. Bye!